Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. US President Donald Trump has received the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize, an award recognizing, quote, exceptional actions for peace on the global stage. Presented by FIFA President Gianni Infantino at the 2026 World Cup draw, the prize cites Trump's efforts to mediate conflicts from Israel-Palestine to Central Africa. We speak with Alberto Coll. He is professor at DePaul University College of Law to unpack the significance of this unprecedented recognition. Professor Coll, welcome back to TVP World and thanks for taking the time.
It's good to be with you.
Good to have you, sir. So tell me your initial thoughts.
Well, I think this has gotten a lot of attention, but I don't see any significance to it. This is just a brilliant business move on the part of Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, to make sure that when the World Cup is held in the United States, that he gets a lot of support, a lot of publicity, a lot of drums beat by the president of the United States and the enormous forces that he commands. And, you know, Gianni Infantino is a master at political flattery. He did this very effectively with the rulers of Qatar, and he has done it with other political leaders. And now it's Donald Trump's turn to get flattered. We know Donald Trump loves to be flattered. We know that Donald Trump wants to get a peace prize. And so Infantino came up with this idea. And it's a way of really greasing the machinery for the World Cup. A brilliant business move by Infantino. I don't think people see this as a serious political or geopolitical move on the world stage, but definitely a great business move for FIFA.
Right. So apart from the fact that, of course, the US is going to host some of the games, what is Gianni Infantino going to get out of it? Yes, he'll get lots of seats and the other perks, I suppose, being head of FIFA. But what then?
Well, part of what's going to happen is that the president of the United States and many people in his party are going to be very curious about the World Cup events. They're going to promote it, and they're going to pull all kinds of levers in order to reward FIFA for what it has done. So this yields long-term as well as medium-term financial benefits for FIFA. FIFA is going to get much bigger crowds in terms of the publicity generated. And it's just a lot of pizzazz that he's hoping to generate with this move among people that support the president, and as well as just the fact that this is in the news. I mean, and has been in the news for the past few days. A lot of Americans are just finding out that the World Cup is going to be held here. So.
Right. Well, some are saying, well, sports and entertainment should be kept out of politics, whereas Gianni Infantino's response is, well, we're recognizing as an international body that sports should promote peace, and that's all that we're doing here. What do you say to those two sides of the argument?
Well, sadly, I think that politics has become more and more of a form of entertainment in our democratic societies. Believe me, I don't think Vladimir Putin, I don't think Xi Jinping see politics as entertainment. They're very serious about it, and they think about it very seriously. But many of our democratic leaders all over the world see politics as a form of entertainment. They promote politics through social media. We have an enormous amount of lack of serious thinking going on in the world today among democratic political leaders. And Trump is no exception. I mean, so politics has become more and more a spectacle. The idea of a statesman being a serious person who's thoughtful, who thinks seriously about matters of state, has given way to people who post on X. People, it started with Barack Obama when he started showing up on the Tonight Show, making jokes, trying to make himself popular. And of course, Trump has been masterful at it. But I think it has led to a decrease in the quality of our political discourse, all the way down to members of Congress who act in very, very clownish ways, and there is a lack of serious debate about serious issues. And so that's unfortunately what has happened. If you read the history of Athenian democracy, by the way, Greek democracy, you see a lot of the same forces at play here. That eventually, a lot of people want politics to be entertainment, sadly. And so democratic politicians and democratic societies eventually gravitate towards forms of entertainment at the expense of serious action and serious thinking and serious deeds.
So, do you see this then as an undermining influence in the trajectory of especially Western politics, which perhaps weakens it on the global stage?
Definitely. I mean, I cannot think of great Western statesmen of the past. I mean, I cannot think of Margaret Thatcher, Charles de Gaulle, Konrad Adenauer, Winston Churchill, Dwight Eisenhower, Harry Truman, doing these clownish things that many of our political leaders do today and have been doing now for a couple of decades. It would have been thought of as an utter lack of seriousness. And I think it reflects, number one, the fact that I don't think Western democracies are really aware of and sensitive to the fact that we are living in perilous times geopolitically with the rise of Russia and particularly China, and that these are times that call for serious thinking, and that is missing at the highest levels of state leadership.
Right. I mean, another example perhaps is in the area of entertainment, the Eurovision Song Contest 2026, where the acceptance of Israel into the contest has led to various countries refusing to participate. I mean, this is something, again, where we see countries which are using politics to demonstrate on the entertainment stage. But this is not new. The Eurovision Song Contest has suffered from this for a number of years. What should be done about this, in your opinion?
Well, I think we should keep politics and entertainment separately. And I think we should say, the Eurovision contest is a contest about singing. It's about art. And if we get a great Israeli singer, that is wonderful. And it doesn't say anything about what your personal views may be about Israeli government policy. So that's how I think we should see it. Otherwise, you start confusing the two. And then eventually what we're going to do is we're going to be politicizing art. We're going to be having a system of censorship in which we basically shut out art or songs from people whose political views we don't like. And I think that that's not a good thing. That's not a healthy thing. And at the same time, I think it contributes to this unhealthy mixture of entertainment with politics, in which people don't want to look at politics as a separate sphere of action and of thought, unrelated to music, unrelated to popular entertainment.
Understood. Now, of course, that could go on down to influencing the kind of literature that is acceptable and so on, which is a very slippery slope. But coming back to the Nobel Peace Prize, I mean, it's no secret that President Trump was disappointed at not being nominated for this. How do you think he'll respond to the FIFA Peace Prize? Would it be at least some acknowledgement that he'd appreciate?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, he feels very flattered by this. He's going to make a very big deal out of it. And his view is that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, by the way, in the past, there have been Nobel Peace Prize winners who really did not deserve that prize. For example, President Barack Obama, who was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize 1 year into his presidency without having done anything for peace. And there are other examples as well. So Trump doesn't deserve it any more or any less than, I would argue, than Barack Obama does. But I don't think that the problem with this focus on the Nobel Peace Prize is that it's not just crafting a peace deal that counts, is what comes from it. In other words, the Nobel Peace Prize should go only to people who craft peace arrangements, contribute to peace in a long-term, meaningful way. And simply having a plan and having the first step in a plan is not enough. We have to look at results. We have to look at consistency. We have to see, okay, for example, the Gaza deal is a good deal. I mean, it stopped hostilities for the time being. It led to the return of the hostages. But we have to look at the many, many other points in it and ask ourselves the question, okay, will President Trump have the focus, the discipline, the consistency to follow through with it so that in the end, we have a long-lasting peace accord? And you could say that about others. But by the way, as I said, there are other politicians who have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize who also did not deserve it. It's become a pawn and an object of adulation. But in reality, it should be given only to people of substance. And maybe there are some years in which no one should get the Nobel Peace Prize. Or, you know, if it goes to somebody, it should be a very courageous person who's in prison because of his or her ideas fighting on behalf of freedom and human dignity.
Well, Nelson Mandela, of course, comes to mind.
Of course.
When
Yes.
when you talk
And
about
also-
that. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a very different world, though, to when the Nobel Prize was initially, you know, awarded to or created by Frederick Nobel, because things aren't as stable and as static as they were then. There's so many dynamics. How does one assess who deserves a Nobel Peace Prize when, you know, looking around the corner to next week is difficult enough, let alone, you know, thinking of long-term benefits of that person?
As I said, maybe there are years in which the Nobel Peace Prize should not be given to anybody, and that it should go only to serious people who have accomplished something serious on a long-term basis. And I don't think that's what's happening right now. And again, what you say is quite true, which is that our age is dominated by social media, but also by these sound bites. At the moment, whatever happens today, whatever happens this week, that's what we talk about. Whatever strikes people, whatever gets lots of reactions, that seems to have the impact. And I think we need to recover, though I know we're swimming upstream, you know, a sense of seriousness about the fact that when you talk about the Peace Prize, well, you're talking about somebody who has made serious contributions in a very meaningful way. And, you know, maybe President Trump will deserve that in another 2 or 3 years. We'll have to see what comes out of his various efforts. But it should not be just given to somebody who loves to talk about it, whether it's Donald Trump today or, you know, Barack Obama, who, by the way, gave beautiful speeches about peace when he ran for office in 2008 and won the election.
Yeah. So, do you? I mean, the other thing perhaps of note is that, you know, football, as Europeans call football, is not exactly the most popular sport in the United States. Does it surprise you then that FIFA was building bridges with the US rather than, you know, the American Football Association or Baseball Association doing something similar with President Trump?
Yeah, I mean, Gianni Infantino sees this as a big business, a global business. And he knows that today in the United States, there are lots of kids, youngsters, who are getting into what we call here soccer, what you call in Europe football. And they love the game. I mean, I can tell you, I know lots of little kids who love playing football. And this is what he has his eye on. And his hope is that, you know, over the next few years, he can continue pushing this trend so that more and more young Americans will play the game, and the U.S. will start having serious football leagues. So this is part of the global business. And think about it. I mean, the United States has 330 million people. And so if you can get that going here, the same way that at one point baseball started taking off in Japan, taking off in Canada and in other places, and it's become a big business. That's what Gianni Infantino wants to do with football here in the U.S. And this is just one piece of that effort.
Right. Well, we certainly be watching that very closely, Professor Coll. Wonderful to see you again, and thank you very much for your insights and your perspective on this. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day, too.
Thank
It's
you.
always
Bye-bye.
a pleasure.
That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away. Lots more coming up. Goodbye.